Okay, and here we are with the second weapon skills video, this time on the 4000 KO skills. Like the 3000 KO skills, I'm going to go through the skills from worst to best. Although the 4000 skills, pretty much all of them are pretty good and do have at least some kind of use, so I guess you could say it's going from least useful to most useful instead. The other difference from the 3000 skills is that these 4000 skills, you're able to equip 2 of them per weapon instead of just 1, which is really nice because, again, all of them are pretty great skills, so being able to have 2 of them is really nice. Anyways, I'm going to start off first with Special Attack Plus. Increases the damage of special attacks. So, Warriors games in general, you can kind of put them into 2 categories. The games where special attacks are really good and the games where special attacks are really bad. Hyrule Warriors is definitely on the side where special attacks are really bad. Pretty much the only uses for special attacks in this game are for either special canceling an attack when you're about to get hit, or if you're like Zant and you ran out of meter and then you special attacks cancel his tripping over animation or something like that, or to deplete a giant boss weak point gauge faster. If you are using a special attack purely to deal damage, you're not dealing much damage, and this skill isn't gonna be helping all that much. It could potentially be nice on Impa's Naginata, since that is a more decent special attack, but that weapon is not getting KOs very fast. It's not going to build up its special meter very fast, so I still wouldn't say it's worth using on that weapon anyways. Next up, Normal Attack Plus. Increases the damage of regular attacks. So, this attack, or this skill, pretty much, it only increases the damage of the weak string. No combos, or charge attacks, or whatever you want to call them. None of those. If you press Strong Attack at any point in the string of attacks that it needs to get you to that point, then the skill isn't increasing the damage of that attack. It is purely just the weak string. So attacks that launch you into the air, like Link's Hylian Master Sword C2, Toon Link's Light Sword C2, Young Link's C2, Medley's C2, Giant Blade Impa's C2, a lot of other C2s that I'm also probably forgetting. Basically all of those, once you get launched in the air and you can do like a weak attack or a strong attack, those weak attacks are doing nothing at all. It is just the weak string. If you press strong attack at any point, everything after that gets nulled out. This skill is kind of nice on Lana's stick, since the last few hits of that attack do have really wide range and they do pretty decent damage, so that's like one weapon to consider using it on if you do use that attack a lot. But that's pretty much the only weapon where I feel like the skill is worth a consideration on. Next up, Focus Spirit Plus. Increases damage while you are in Focus Spirit. So, Young Link wants this. Young Link should be in Focus Spirit a lot. If you have a fairy that has Magic Fountain on it, then you might want to use this skill on other characters as well. If you're using Young Link alongside a fairy with Magic Fountain, you absolutely should be using this skill. But for pretty much every other character that is not Young Link, and if you don't have a fairy that has Magic Fountain on it, I don't feel like this skill is worth a consideration. You're not going to be in Focus Spirit nearly long enough for this skill to do anything meaningful. So, yeah. And finally, we're moving on to the 3 skills that are probably going to see more common use. First up, Heartstrong. Increases attack damage while health is full. I mentioned this a bit in the last video when paired with Defenseless, because this skill increases damage to all attacks no matter what. It's just you have to be at full health. That is the condition for it. But since it is one of the few 4000 skills that increases damage to everything, and being at full health is a condition that every character is able to maintain, at least for most of the mission, possibly all the mission. The entire mission if you're good enough at playing the game, unlike Focus Spirit where it's just most characters are not going to be in that mode long enough for it to matter at all. So that's really nice. And when paired with Defenseless, you're getting a huge boost to all of your attacks, although you are extremely limited in defensive options. You have to remain at full health, you can't shield at all. But personally, it is a really fun set. It is a really effective set. You are going to be dealing a ton of damage, and it's honestly kind of overkill in the Switch version. You really don't need all that, but it is nice, and if you do feel confident in your abilities to play the game, that skill is absolutely worth considering, and I do personally enjoy it a lot as well. Next up, Finishing Blow Plus increases the damage of weak point smash attacks. Pretty much, this skill is just, if you've gone through all the skills, you have one skill on your weapon already, you don't know what the second 4000 KO skill you want to put on your weapon is going to be, then put Finishing Blow Plus on. It's nice, but it's not anything that's like super required, but it is really helpful. Weak point smashes are generally really strong attacks. Increasing the damage of them is really nice. Allows you to go through character officers quicker. Giant bosses in some scenarios it can help in, so it's nice if you don't have anything else you want to put on, but again, I wouldn't make it like a priority or anything. So yeah, look through the other skills, but if you can't decide on what else to use, then yeah, you can go with Finishing Blow Plus. And finally, Hasty Attacks, what I personally think is the best skill in the game. The skill that I was kind of considering doing its own separate video for, because it's just that crazy of a skill. It raises your general attack speed to match what it usually is in Focus Spirit, which means it doesn't affect your speed in Focus Spirit. However, this skill does stack with the speed boost you gain from King Daphnes's C1, so that's really nice. So attacking faster has so many ridiculous benefits. So if you're attacking faster, you're throwing out more attacks in a short span of time, so that's raising your DPS. Your attacks aren't dealing more damage, but you're able to do more attacks, so that's helping there. With attacks being faster, that means attacks are ending quicker and starting quicker, which means it's potentially safer. You're not stuck in a long animation where you could get hit out of it if the move ends quicker, so that makes it safer. That also allows for combos that you could have maybe possibly been... This also allows for combos and juggles that were maybe not possible before, with attacks ending quicker, so you can move into a different attack faster, so you can continue hitting the enemy and keeping them up in the air. That is something that you can potentially do with Hasty Attacks. It helps with giant bosses, since you're able to throw out more attacks, so you can deplete the weak point gauge more reliably. And I mean, I feel like the best example for that, like even in my Ravio video, I feel like that was a pretty good example of that, of if you don't have Hasty Attacks on him, you can take down about half the giant bosses in one go, and with some giant bosses like Argrok and Imprisoned, you have to do maybe a bit of strict timing and on your attacks and hitting them in like a specific way, but it's still doable. But then you put Hasty Attacks on, and he's suddenly able to take down every single giant boss in the game easily with no stress at all. It's just, he needs to use C4 3 times, and that's it. That works against every giant boss in the game. He doesn't really have to worry about that at all. And that's just one example, and there's plenty of characters that benefit a ton from Hasty Attacks when dealing with giant bosses. Toonzald is another one I always freak out over, but yeah. So, and there's probably plenty of other uses for Hasty Attacks that I haven't gone into. I just don't want to make this video too ridiculously long, because again, that's kind of why I was considering making Hasty its own video. But yeah, that's just some of the uses. Personally, Hasty Attacks, I feel like it'd be better to just give a list of who wouldn't want to use Hasty Attacks. I feel like that'd be quicker, because most characters do want to use Hasty Attacks. But who doesn't want to use it? Young Link, like I said before, it doesn't affect your speed in Focus Spirit. He should be in Focus Spirit most of the time, and he also usually wants to make room for Focus Spirit Plus, and getting rid of Hasty allows for that. So that's one character you really just don't need Hasty on. The other one is Ganondorf's Trident. It kind of ruins juggles for him, because you're launching enemies up into the air, and then you kind of like move into the air, so you can continue attacking them with like his C2 and C4, C5, C5 I think, yeah. Played Trident in a while. But yeah, with Hasty, he kind of goes into the air faster than enemies get launched into the air, and it just kind of ruins stuff, and that's maybe not a good idea. And that's pretty much it. It's just those two. Everything else, like Sheik, Epona for Link, those weapons are kind of more like, they get different juggles. You kind of have to play them a bit differently, but they don't get worse. It's just, yeah, they're different. And like for both of them, they're already pretty fast as well, so hasty attacks makes them even faster. So if that's just too fast for you to handle, then it might be better to not use the skill. But even then, I feel like if you see hasty attacks on a character, I still would say give it a try at least, just to see how well you like it. But for pretty much every character is going to want it. Actually, there is one other character that does not want to use hasty attacks, and that is going to be Wizro, but specifically in the Switch version. His C4 is a bit bugged to where it won't shoot out as many purple orbs as it normally does, and that can really hurt his giant boss capabilities. His KO abilities or taking keeps, it kind of lowers his damage. That kind of hurts, and he doesn't really gain all that much from hasty in the first place. So Switch version of Wizro, he won't really want the skill either. But if you're playing Wizro in the Wii U or 3DS versions, he's still going to want the skill, so I would still recommend that. So overall, yeah, don't use hasty on Young Link, Ganondorf's Trident, or Wizro, and then pretty much everything else is going to want it. And then there's maybe like the faster weapons. At least just give it a try. If you don't like it, you can't control it, then maybe don't bother. But I would still recommend at least trying to learn how to use it, even if it is like really fast, because it is just going to benefit you so much. So for the most part, if you're building weapon, you're going to use hasty attacks and finishing blow plus. Those are usually the two main skills that most people use on their perfect weapons. Although again, like I said in last video, you're using defenseless, then I would say hasty attacks and Heartstrong is going to be the 4000 skills you're going to want to lean towards the most. And that's pretty much consistent across all three versions of the game. There's not really any kind of like weird quirks I could think of other than like the Wizro glitch for hasty, but that's about it. Yeah, it's pretty much consistent across all three versions, and yeah, that's about it for this video.